Hey, I've got a question for you. How do you what's your preferred popcorn? Popcorn talk. Are you simple salt and butter guy? Like if you could
Yep.
have any popcorn you want, not just at the movie theater, but like your dream popcorn. Do you keep it simple? Do you add some flavor in there? What are you going for?
I want movie theater popcorn as much as possible, and I think part of the reason I love going to the movies so much is because that's where I get it. Because almost every single thing that presents itself as like movie theater popcorn at home never tastes right ever. It's
Yeah.
never the right, and I've heard that there's a reason for that, and I've seen videos on like how they make it, and there's like a specific like seasoning that's used to get the neon yellow of movie theater popcorn.
Like
And I
it's
don't
not
really care.
not available like a retail. Like you have like
It's not. It's one of the. It's kind of like. It's basically like a specific seasoning that like. It's just not standard table salt or something like that. Like that's just not
sure.
what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But like I have done like the cinnamon. I've done like cinnamon popcorns before. Like I've done the caramel corns, the cheese corns, stuff like that. Like anytime like there's like a famous um popcorn place in Chicago called Garrett's. And there's another one called Nuts on Clark. And both of them are like obviously Nuts on Clark is more for like actual nuts, but like they both do popcorns. And so I get the like Garrett popcorn for my dad when I travel because he really likes the caramel corn and the cheese corn. And that's actually their secret mix is both. They do an equal mix of the cheese corn and the caramel corn together. And I don't know how that's good, but my dad likes it. It just
Okay, but before I continue down that road, I just want to clarify this place in Chicago. You're saying it's called Nuts on Clark?
there is an establishment called Nuts on Clark. Yes.
Like if you see Superman with a big bulge, you're like, man, look at the nuts on Clark. Like nuts on Clark.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Exactly that. It is not at all related to the fact that it is a nut shop located on Clark Street.
They knew what they were doing when they called it that.
I don't know that they did. It depends on how old it is.
Yeah. So the only other, like when I think popcorn, I think movies, and I think butter and salt, and that makes me happy. I've had plenty of microwave popcorn, which has its own distinct. It doesn't taste like what you get at the movies, but has its own distinct flavor. Shout out to Pop Secret Home Style. It's my favorite of that version. But even those, I'm only eating when I'm watching a movie, which is kind of my next question. Like, do you ever eat popcorn not while watching a movie? I think for me, it's just those Christmas tins. Like I never buy them, but I inevitably receive one or two from a Christmas party or whatever. And it's got the caramel, the cheddar, and the whatever else. I'll munch on that for a little while, I guess, as a random snack. But otherwise, I'm just eating popcorn during a movie, and I keep it simple with the salt and butter. I agree.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. I don't feel the need to complicate it. I don't feel the need to go any harder. If popcorn is available at a location for something, I will, like I said, munch on it. But generally speaking, I go to the movies every week though. So like I almost
You're getting
so
plenty of popcorn.
I'm eating popcorn all the time. Like I'm gonna have popcorn on Wednesday. Like I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna enjoy it. But yeah, I don't. To me, and like they sell like various. They even at AMC now they have like the caramel corns and the cheese corns, and I'm like, I don't want it. Get it out of my face.
Your concession order every week is a large butter popcorn and a large Mr. Pibb?
Mr. Pibb Zero, yes.
Pibb Zero for health.
Because they actually have it. Because they have one of like the choose your own adventure soda machines.
Oh, right,
and I hate those because it never tastes right. But they have Pibb Zero on those. So I figure
They
if I'm
definitely
having the giant bucket of salt, I can have the zero sugar soda to try to offset it.
Life's about balance, Andrew.
Yes,
Gotta respect it.
It is indeed. All things.
Let's play that theme song.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts
best of the rest.
Hello and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Chris Logan, and I am joined, as always, by my daydreaming co-host, Andrew Williams. Say something to the listeners, Andrew.
Hey.
Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's the farewell tour. And this week, we are talking the 2013 film, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Andrew, this might be the longest title that we've ever covered in this podcast, I'm thinking. Venom: The Last Dance, I don't think that's longer. Spider-Man: No Way Home, get a bonus episode. I don't know. That's pretty close. What do you think?
I mean, I would
Longest
say
title?
there's probably a really good chance that this is the longest episode title.
Oh,
we've done.
wait. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Out of the Shadows. That's probably longer, right?
Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. That one's pretty long.
Turns out, yeah, it's probably not. But anyway, that's not what's important. What's important is this question I have for you, Andrew. What is your history with this movie? I would ask if you've seen it before, but of course you have. You're the reason we're talking about it today. We're talking about it because you do have a significant history with this movie. Why don't you let the listeners in? What's your story here?
Well, obviously, I've seen this movie before. I did not see it in theaters. I do want to stress that. I was pretty excited for this when the trailer came out for it, but then it came out and the response was kind of middling, and I wasn't really as plugged into the movies every week as I am now. So it kind of came and it went, and I was kind of like, all right. It was kind of a bummer that because I kind of had high hopes for it, and oddly enough, did not see it in theaters when it came out. This was back in the before times of 2013. Woof. But even the fact that it was released in December of 2013, thought people were like, oh, awards consideration. They were like, oh, we're in the field for that. But so I did not see it in theaters. Obviously, I've told this story probably multiple times on the show by now. There's probably a whole Secret Life of Walter Mitty episode you could excise from all of our episodes already existing. So I don't know why we didn't just do that. It's a lot of work, that's why. But so the story as it goes is I went to Austin for the very first MondoCon. I believe it was MondoCon. And it was either MondoCon or Staple. I think it was MondoCon. And because I was staying in a hotel with my friend Dusty. It must have been MondoCon because we had a bunch of posters. So we went back to the hotel room. We've set up with all of our posters and stuff. And I just turned on the TV. And this was on. And it was maybe 20 minutes in. And he was like, oh, this guy's going to be at this bar afterwards. This guy's going to be here. And I was just like, all right, cool. Talking about where we were going to hang out next. And suddenly we just kind of sat and watched the whole rest of the movie. We literally just sat on the hotel beds and just watched the entire rest of this movie, which was an hour and a half. It was not a small investment to finish watching it. And at no point did we feel the need to get up and leave. I was just like, all right, we're just going to keep watching this. And because I'm really, really intrigued by what we're watching here. And it's stuck in my brain. After that, I immediately went and bought it so that I could watch the whole thing, and watched it, enjoyed it, loved it, and as I've suggested multiple times on the show, is probably a not insignificant factor in why I kind of started looking to move outside of Houston, just because I'd kind of had that stranger in a strange land feeling kind of going for a while, where I'd lived in Houston, in and around Houston, pretty much my whole life. And I was kind of the idea of pushing yourself past the ordinary or the expected or playing it safe or sticking with the normal, that message of moving beyond that resonated in a very deep, heavy way. And yeah, it it I've loved that movie ever since, and I'll watch it relatively regularly. It's something where I like can put it on, and it makes me feel centered. If I'm particularly feeling overstimulated, or I'm feeling like I'm kind of adrift, I can watch this and get a little bit of sense of peace out of it. Um, I can really decide that I should probably visit Greenland, Iceland, and just enjoy all of these mountains. But it's a weird experience because this was clearly not a movie that did super well, and the response was super mixed. And I get it. I don't want to act like I don't understand the mixed reception. I do. Like I can identify things in the movie that work better than other things, and other things that I don't know quite land. But I've loved it since I saw it sitting on that hotel bed with my friend at a poster convention, and that was a stacked lineup too. Like it was Mondo Khan, but like Francisco Francavilla was there, Jeff Darrow was there, Mike Mignola was there, Tim Sale was there, Jock was there. Like it was wildly stacked. Like I have a Tim Sale like 1-page Superman sketch that he did for like free. Like it's in a book that I need to find somewhere, but like it's just Brian Lee O'Malley was there, the creator of Scott Pilgrim, stuff like that. Like it was just wild. It was one of those conventions where I was like, it's like Wayne's World 2, where he's just like Aerosmith and Wow, who else?
Yeah, who else?
And so but yeah, so I have a deep history with this movie. Like I said, did not see it in the theaters. So I can't so I take my fault for its theatrical failure. Not failure, but probably more like a break-even scenario. But yeah, it's been one of those movies that's just stuck with me ever since. And I think that idea of, at the time, especially kind of the idea of a character that was kind of like feeling like he was in a rut and stuck, but not just stuck, but refusing to do anything about it. Like to kind of like, I can't do anything about this because to not play it safe means that I'm taking an undue risk. And it pushed me to take some risks. And some of those didn't work out. I don't know how much I've dived into it, but like the first risk I took when I left Houston, like that was an abject failure. Like it did not work. It was bad. And it led to the next adventure, which was coming to Chicago, which has worked out pretty well. Yeah, it's probably a lot of pressure to put on a movie that Ben Stiller probably never thinks about, but it's important to me, and it always has been ever since I saw it. So yeah, that's
I mean, that's great. I don't have nearly as much of obviously I'm not gonna have the same history as you, but I also did not see this in theaters. I do remember when it came out. I remember the trailers, and I guess maybe it getting a lukewarm reception. 2013. We were, I shouldn't say we, but maybe me was maybe in a bit of a Ben Stiller fatigue by that point.
I guess definitely part of it, kind of a wider.
I'm going to pull up his filmography. So yeah, taking a look at some of the stuff he did around here. Let's see. Secret Life. When is The Heartbreak Kid? Because that might have been my breaking point. Is that before this?
That was Toe 7. That was like several years before
man,
this.
yeah. So this is I was. I mean, Tropic Thunder's after that, but a bunch of Night at the Museums, which I've never seen one, but it was like him just doing like a Little Fockers. I mean, there's some Tower Heist that didn't make much of an impression on anybody. So yeah, there was maybe like some Ben Stiller fatigue, and while I would say this is certainly not a typical Ben Stiller movie, you don't really know that until you watch it. So that was probably also a deciding factor in not seeing this. But I knew vaguely the premise, at the very least, sort of the daydreaming sequence thing, and I was always interested in seeing it. And I watched it years later. I don't know exactly when. According to my Letterboxd, I watched it in 2021, but I swear it was before that. I feel like I watched this pre-pandemic, but I guess I could share my original thoughts on it watching the first time, which were that was fine. I kind of had like one major, quote unquote, major complaint about it that really drug it down for me, but didn't have the impact that it had on you. But hearing you talk about it over the years, I've always been like, man, I should revisit that movie. Maybe dive in with a little bit more mature mindset, and certainly the mindset that we've gained from doing this podcast. So I've been excited to go back to it. I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that for the show, and I came away with a lot more positives this go round that I am excited for us to talk about, Andrew. But first, we're going to set the stage here. This movie was initially released December 25th, Christmas Day, 2013. It's made on a budget of $90 million, but at the box office, it only brings in $188.3 million. I mean, I say only, that's not a bad return, but when your budget is $90 million, you're barely doing twice that. It is, I think you said earlier, maybe breaking even, maybe a profit with some home video sales, but certainly below what the expectations must have been. Critically, critics are split, almost down the middle. 52% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, that lukewarm reception we were talking about. Audiences like it a bit more. There is a 71% audience score, but it's just not making a huge splash when it initially releases.
It is not. Let me see if I can find the box office real quick. Should have done this ahead of time. And like, I want to say this too. Like, I don't. Like, I feel like if you search this movie on Reddit, it's almost exclusively, wow, what an underrated, like, you know, it's a lot about how it's underrated, hidden gem.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it is. I don't know that I'd go as far to say that I think it's properly rated. I think it's better than that score suggests. But at the same time, like, what was it, 56%?
52.
52. That means literally like half of critics liked it. So, like, you know, like it's fine. Like that's you know, we're talking about the metrics of Rotten Tomatoes again, and people not understanding how it works. But like, it's legitimately split. It means half of the critics liked it. So if we're looking at its domestic weekends, it ranks number 7 opening weekend. Oof.
Wow, that's not good.
It makes $12.7 million that opening weekend, which is not horrible. It is slightly upstaged by other new release, The Wolf of Wall Street at number 5.
Wow,
but largely
those do not occupy the same spot in my brain. I would not have guessed those came out. Wow, that's so weird.
There's actually 4 releases on Christmas Day that year: The Wolf of Wall Street, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, 47 Ronin, the Keanu Reeves samurai movie,
yeah.
and Grudge Match, the not Raging
Bull versus Rocky.
Dominating the top spots though are The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug at number 1 in its 3rd week, totaling a gross of $190 million at that point, which, you know, people would have you believe those movies didn't make money. They made money.
Right.
Frozen sitting at number 2, actually getting an uptick in its box office. This is, I guess, actually technically the post-Christmas weekend. Hold on, let me see if I can get the full. No, I guess this is what we got. So, then Anchorman 2 at number 3, bringing in almost $20 million. Woof. And then American Hustle. You remember that one?
Yeah. That movie that like everyone loved and then immediately hated, that a really weird reception.
Like, and then it like disappeared from like the public consciousness. And then Saving Mr. Banks, the Mary Poppins movie, I guess.
I always think it's the Kevin Costner serial killer movie.
That's
Mr.
Brooks, yes. So a weird weekend.
Okay, real quick. Of all those movies you just listed, what has the best legacy today? I think 2 movies. Okay, I would say 2 of those movies I think stood the test of time.
For sure. Of those movies,
I think like Frozen and Wolf of Wall Street are both still in the zeitgeist, remembered fondly. The rest of them either didn't register or they quickly
Like the Hobbit
fell
movies
out.
are largely forgotten.
Right.
Anchorman 2, Anchorman 2's legacy is not being Anchorman.
Right.
American Hustle, we just said, has disappeared. Saving Mr. Banks is that movie where you're like, this is good, probably never going to watch it again. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, Wolf of Wall Street just for the memes alone, and Frozen. Frozen for sure. Like Frozen's definitely
Yeah,
the
I mean
most. That's the big one. But like, you go forward a week and it's down to number 8, down to 8 million. You go another week, it's down to 13. So it just kind of dies very slowly. Not a lot of new releases. Basically, Frozen dominates the new year pretty heavily, and then Lone Survivor, I guess, opens up wide the week of January 10th and makes a bunch of money. But yeah, so it ends its domestic run at 58 million. So it makes about a fifth of that its opening weekend. Makes 130 roughly international for a worldwide total of 188. Yeah, it just can't really stick with it. It's just not there. Too many other big new releases, too many other things. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but does all right. Box office wise, not big, but not a lot.
Let's take a look at the creative team. At least where the creative team landed. This was languishing in development hell for decades. This movie is a remake, we should acknowledge. Talk more about that in a second here. But over time, we have directors like Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg attached, starring roles at one point could be Jim Carrey, then Owen Wilson, Sacha Baron Cohen. It's all over the place before we finally land where we do. It's eventually, incredibly, only one screenwriting credit because it gets rewritten so many times, but obviously eventually to start from scratch. Our sole credited writer is Steve Conrad. Before this, had written The Weatherman, which is a Nick Cage movie that I like. The Champion, I think it's pretty good. The Pursuit of Happiness, a movie that speaks for itself. Directed a movie called The Promotion that he wrote with Sean William Scott and
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly. A movie that I don't remember whatsoever.
Yeah.
But based on the writer, who I like a lot of his movies and that cast, kind of want to see it, kind of want to track it down. And this is the movie he writes after that. But a good little streak going for Steve Conrad at the time.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, this is... So we can talk about that a little bit. This movie is a remake in the sense that it is based off a short story by James Thurber. That is then made into a movie in 1947 called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, starring Danny Kaye, I believe, of White Christmas fame.
So you're saying it's a readaptation? Is that what you want to clarify?
Yeah, I like. It's one of those things where they're like, "Oh, it's a remake," and it's like, I guess it's sort of a remake of the 1947 film, but like, I don't know. Anyway, the short story is a short story. It's not really an adaptation of the short story. The short story is kind of like the. I don't know if you've ever read the short story that Total Recall is based off of. Like, it's very short.
Right.
And
I read Minority Report, which
there's a nugget of an
very
idea in We Can Remember It For You Wholesale that becomes the basis of the movie Total Recall. But like a lot of the rest of it is very much like drawn up and extrapolated. Secret Life of Walter Mitty is very similar. The original short story is very short. It is originally published in the New Yorker in 1939. It is not even close. Like the setup is not even the same. The only real linking thread between the original short story and the movies is that there's a lead character who has vivid daydreams. And that's really it. And it's 5 like increasingly absurd daydreams about ridiculous things. And then that leads to the 47 movie that definitely plays more with the idea of it. So this is it's using the same DNA as that 47 adaptation, but the story is still pretty different. And it is Danny Kaye. I was trying to remember. Boris Karloff's in it too. It's a real weird thing. So
You ever watch that one just because you love this one so much? Just
Yeah.
to see what
yeah, it Once
Not-
Upon a Time. It's
Yeah.
didn't hit me quite as much. For obvious reasons if you watch it. It's not the travel aspect, the whole going it's not there. Largely. It's a much different much different in its approach. But yeah, despite that, so like I said, it is a wild production history that Jim Carrey was in mind for the role at one point, like we talked about. Like they were talking about Jim Carrey doing this in '94 when like Jim Carrey was at like his hottest.
right.
And that just feels so strange. Like it would have been so like I feel like if you were doing like a zany adventure comedy, kind of like the 47 version, that lines up a little bit more with Jim Carrey. But obviously the form this movie takes, not to say that late stage Jim Carrey couldn't have done something like this, but like there's just like no mechanisms of which he can get any real like the comedy is all kind of situational to what's happening around him. It's not necessarily being driven by Walter himself. So it's kind of would have been a very kind of different thing for Carrey to do. But literally it takes almost 20 years for this movie. I mean, it does. From the 94 to 2013 is 20 years, give or take. And Gore Verbinski was going to do it at one point, and he'd worked with Steve Conrad before on Weatherman. And so I'm guessing that's kind of where he comes in. And yeah, it's a wild production that takes a long time. Now, the version of the movie that comes out, that production probably isn't particularly troubled. It sounds like once Ben Stiller comes on board, it kind of finalizes and crystallizes, and he signs on to be the director, and that version gets to the finish line pretty quickly. But it takes a long time to get to that point, over 15 years. And so it's a trip.
As we've said, the movie is directed by Ben Stiller. Now, just a second ago, I was talking about Ben Stiller fatigue. But we've talked about Ben Stiller on our podcast before, and I'm sure I've said something similar. Like, I'm at a point now where I can look back and be like, yeah, Ben Stiller is one of the great comedic minds of his generation, like of the 90s and 2000s. The man is hilarious and behind so much funny stuff. I'm not saying everything he ever touched was great. There's some stinkers in there, whatever. What comedy star doesn't have some? But he is so funny. He's one of the best. It's incredible how good he is as a straight man in like Meet the Parents, and as a wacky character like
White
Dodgeball,
Goodman or Tony Perkins. Yeah,
yes, he does both so
like
well,
effortlessly. Like
yes, it's so
like,
good.
Well, and like I said, like in this, he's kind of almost completely like his character is pretty much playing this whole movie straight.
Yeah, I feel
for the
like
most part.
the Daydream where like he's like basically in brown face and doing this Spanish accent. It's like the one time he's like wacky in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, for most time he's kind of a hapless character playing it straight. Yeah, he's just so good. I love Ben Stiller, and this is a directorial effort. I want to run down his entire directorial filmography really quick here because I think one of the most underrated directors out there.
Yeah.
Starts off with Reality Bites. Just a great, like, Gen Z alternative comedy romance movie. It's loved by critics, not a huge hit by any means, but it gets him a lot of respect. Kind of cashes that in with Cable Guy. You know, speaking of Jim Carrey, height of his powers, we've covered that on our show. Fails to impress at the time. I love that movie, though, and I've certainly gained a cult following since then. And then Zoolander is, we're hitting. I mean, that makes plenty of money, helps launch the career of Will Ferrell. Follows it up with Tropic Thunder, maybe his biggest hit of his directorial effort. But maybe a hot take here. It's my least favorite of the movies that I've just mentioned. I don't love Tropic Thunder. I don't know if I've ever said this on mic before. I like a lot of things about it, but when I sit down and watch it, that movie gets pretty soggy in the middle. I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take. That's my 2 cents there.
There are very high highs in Tropic Thunder. I will say some of the quieter moments, I'm just kind of like, all right, get to the part where you're a lead farmer.
Yeah, 1000%. So I love the movie up until they get to Vietnam, and the director steps, spoilers, kind of, steps on a landmine and blows up. And
like the immediate aftermath of that is great, but then like
yes, and then it just
them wandering
screeches
the
to
jungle,
a halt. Yes,
there's
it's
funny
such a drag.
moments. There's funny lines. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I'm not going to pretend that there's not really great moments in those scenes, but like, it's genuinely like the funnier part is Tom Cruise and Matthew McConaughey and Bill Hader. Like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Like, all that's way funnier, and like it's so much funnier. But like, it's definitely something where like I don't like. I like Tropic Thunder, but also like I haven't rewatched Tropic Thunder in a long time. Like, that's kind of my barometer for how much I actually like something. Is it's like, oh, have I felt any desire to rewatch that recently? And the answer a lot of times is no. But it's still like it's probably his most successful. It's like Downey right before Iron Man or right after Iron Man.
Same year?
Summer as Dark Knight.
2008,
same summer.
Or maybe
same
the year before.
Summer. Like, no, it's the same. Like,
is it same 2008? Okay.
Yeah, and so it's pretty wild that like he catches Downey like right before Iron Man to be in this patently absurd
It
thing.
is so funny to me. I know I'm not saying anything like breaking new ground here, and I'm not saying anybody should be canceled. But it's so funny to me that Iron Man is the return of Robert Downey Jr. and he's in blackface the same year. And I know there's layers to this, and like I said, I'm not saying it's just that just on paper is very funny to me. Okay. Follows that up with Walter Mitty. We're talking about it now. We talked about the lukewarm reception already. Follows that up with Zoolander 2. We're kind of in trouble. I've never watched it. I've heard it's unwatchable, even from people that love the first one. So I can't say too much personally, but yeah, it seems like a big misfire.
It to me, Zoolander 2 occupies the same headspace as Anchorman 2. It's one of those things where like I look back, and hashtag PP to be very, very clear. I look at both of those. Both of them were very long gestating sequels. Anchorman took well over 10 years. Zoolander closer to 20. And I look at those and I'm just like, this is what we did. It's kind of like you had all this time to kind of come up with another concept, and this is where we landed. That's kind of where I land with those, where I'm just kind of like, I feel like if this is what we were going to do, we needed to just not do it. But, you know, whatever.
It seems to be the only outright stinker in the filmography, though. It's his last narrative directorial effort. He did release a documentary this past year about his parents called Stiller and Mira. Nothing is Lost, which
wonderful.
I'm not really
I want to be
with.
very clear
Is
about
it great?
this. It is absolutely wonderful. Obviously Stiller and Mira were I mean, there's parents, but they were like a very famous comedy duo in like the 60s and the 70s. And so like it's kind of funny that like it's a little bit of the Mel Brooks syndrome where like Jerry Stiller gets this like later like resurgence when he's in things like Zoolander or when he's in like Seinfeld as George Costanza's dad, where he's so funny. He like it's kind of funny that there are like genuinely a lot of co-stars on Seinfeld that I think end up stealing the show that they're in, like the episode. They're the funniest part of it. Like there's an episode with Bryan Cranston where Jerry goes into the dentist, and his whole paranoia is that like while he's under the laughing gas, the dentist is like doing naughty things with his assistant on top of him, and he's just paranoid about it. But like the scene is Jerry lays down in the desk chair and he's all paranoid about this because Jerry gets paranoid about the stupidest stuff. And Bryan Cranston's character is like, all right, get the laughing gas for you. And then Cranston takes a whiff of it first and then gives it to Jerry. And then there's like another moment where like, but Cranston ends up being the best part of all the episodes he's in. Like he's funnier than anybody else. And Jerry Stiller is the exact same way, where like he's in these episodes like Festivus. The whole Festivus thing is Jerry Stiller just like completely unhinged talking about this made up holiday, but he's so funny as he does it. And but it's so like with Mel Brooks, it's the same way where like you get this late stage, like you get like the kind of the young Frankensteins, and then eventually into the 80s and the 90s with like Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights. But there's this whole comedy career he has in the 60s and the 70s, even before Young Frankenstein, that people just don't realize these people had. And so they Stiller and Mira were like early on members of the Second City improv comedy troupe. They had a whole bunch of different performances and shows that they did. It was just, and then they were on the Ed Sullivan Show a lot back when that was like the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show. But it's clearly a documentary. Obviously, Ben Stiller's making a documentary about his parents. It's going to be heavily weighted towards them, but it's just it's one of those things that I watch, and when it finished, I was just like, this was so wonderful. Like people are just like, oh, it's just Ben Stiller making a love letter to his parents, and I was like, yeah. Why does it need to be anything else? Like, why can't it just be that? And it is extremely good. I liked it quite a bit. It's up on Apple TV Plus. But
you mentioned him stealing the show on Seinfeld. I feel similarly about he was on King of Queens.
Yes,
and there's a joke I still think of regularly and will laugh. It's whenever he writes a novel and he has his daughter Laura Remini. Oh, what's her name?
Leah Remini.
Leah Remini and Kevin James read it. And he's trying to get their feedback, and Kevin James, like, honestly, is confusing and it's really hard to follow. There's two different characters named Bill, and Jerry goes, sometimes people have the same name. That's real life. It's so good.
I wouldn't be shocked if like everything Jerry Stiller was in, he just like read the script and was like, all right, I'm going to do my own thing. But because like so much of
I got some ideas.
Like there's so like, and part of it is probably he's just really good at what he does. Because I wouldn't necessarily say there's a lot of range in Jerry Stiller, but he was extremely like, you think about that character versus like his character on Seinfeld or even his character in Zoolander. Like it's the same like crazed energy in all of them. Like there's no real like there's shades of differences, but like there's still this just like consistent manic energy despite the fact that he's like 80 when he's doing all of these things. And it's just like all of the things though, I'm just like, if you revealed to me that these were all just the same person at different points in his life, I would believe it. I don't know how he ends up changing his circumstances so much and getting so many new families, but it feels like that's the thing. And I'm not saying that as backhanded or a bad thing. I'm just saying that he's very funny. And also just like, you think about like the fact that like Ben Stiller was able to work with his dad on stuff, like just how, like that's got to be a cool thing, like to have that kind of relationship, because you hear about all these fractured family relationships, especially in like, show business or music or sports or anything. Like there's all these stories of like fractured family relationships or strained or estrangement between people, and I'm just kind of like, it's nice to see that like when Ben Stiller had a chance, like his mom is in Zoolander too. She's like one of the protesters at the beginning of the movie. And it's just like, how cool, like, is that to be able to do that and to just be able to have that experience? And, it's just nice. And so, not to get too distracted, but that documentary is extremely wonderful. And I do want to highlight a couple of other things. Like, he's done a couple of television things. He did the Ben Stiller Show way back in the day, which is like even before Reality Bites, which is kind of wild that he gets like a sketch show. But then again, you realize he's a little bit of a nepo baby, but using his powers for good, I guess. But then the recent thing that Ben Stiller's done that everybody seems to really like is the show Severance,
All right, yeah.
He directs the first 3 episodes of season 1, and then the last 3 episodes of season 1, and then directs several episodes in season 2. And so the man's still out there directing, and he's not really in Severance. That's kind of that's the interesting thing I've kind of seen him transition to now, is he started directing things that he's just not in. And so I definitely understand that there was a period of time with Ben Stiller. I think like when the Fockers trilogy ended the first time, I feel like that's kind of when everybody fell off with Ben Stiller. Like I feel like Meet the Parents is definitely when he's like kind of at his peak, and he's or maybe he's like at his highest rise. But then I feel like after 3 of those, everyone was kind of like, all right, we've had enough of Ben Stiller for a while. And then he gets a brief layover with Tropic Thunder. But I've always, like, I'm a huge Heavyweights fan. Obviously, we talked about it on the show. Mark Strong Award winner, no way to check. But, like, I've always been a huge fan of Ben Stiller, if only for Heavyweights alone. Just like Lunch has been canceled due to lack of hustle is something I say more often than I'd like to admit. But it's just, yeah, it's this one and so that's and like you said, you kind of pointed it out, it's all different stuff. Like he's not playing the same character in everything, which is like he kind of gets this criticism that he does, but like he channels very different energies and plays very different characters. And like you look at Tony Perkis compared to Walter Mitty, and like they're wildly different characters.
Absolutely.
There's
yeah.
very few similarities there. So I do think Ben Stiller's a little underappreciated, and like I think looking at his directorial filmography, they're like Zoolander 2 is really like, to me, the only miss as far as it goes. The rest of them are all something that I can point to and be like, yeah, this guy maybe doesn't quite get the credit he deserves.
Well, Andrew, it's time that we jump into this movie to talk about all the positives I think we like about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah.
Walter Mitty works in the Negative Archives department during the final days of Life magazine. When the time comes to select the cover photo for the final issue, Walter is unable to locate the shot selected by the famed photographer Sean O'Connell. Facing possible termination, the introverted Walter Mitty decides to track down Sean and hopefully retrieve the lost negative. This journey takes him around the world and far outside of his comfort zone, but will he gather enough self-confidence to ask out Cheryl Melhoff from work? It's always about a girl, Andrew. That's really the gist of it. It's a pretty simple premise. He's trying to track this guy down and, getting outside of his comfort zone. That's the thrust of it. We've alluded to it already, but we've got the hook or the gimmick, if you will, that this character will often daydream fantastical scenarios that we get to see play out on screen, usually with some big special effects and action sequences. We'll get to it. We'll talk about it in scenes. But first, you know what we got to do. We got to talk about this cast, starting with the best casting and best performance of the movie, because every episode recognize one person who goes so far above and beyond the Call of Duty that they actually elevate the quality of the entire film with the performance. So we recognize that person by giving them the Mark Strong Award. So Andrew, kick us off. Who getting your Mark Strong Award for The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
It is going to be Olafur Darry Olafsson. No, as the drunk helicopter pilot. No, I think I got to go straight to the top. I mean, obviously, it feels weird giving it to the director also playing the lead role, but Ben Stiller is doing most of the heavy lifting here. The movie is driven by him. The movie is carried by his character's performance. And I think I can just say that, like, obviously that performance spoke to me on a very deep level when I watched this movie. The idea of, the kind of listlessness that he's portraying throughout this movie, and this kind of drive he has to finally step outside of it, being kind of feeling like he's being called to in a way. That lands for me in a big way. And so I've just got to go straight to Ben Stiller. Obviously, there's a lot of, I think, very fun, small performances. I mentioned one of them just a second ago, but like there's a lot of really good bit parts, but they all are pretty limited in their scope. Like, obviously, this is Ben Stiller directing a movie about Ben Stiller, basically. So in that regard, I think I've got to go straight to the top. Ben Stiller, multi-time award winner of the Mark Strong Award, the most prestigious award in all of podcasting. And I presume there's no way to check.
I kind of have to agree. I mean, I don't know how you don't go Ben Stiller here, which isn't like all these performances are great. Like, I like all of them, but I mean, he gets a lot to work with. He rises to the occasion. He covers so much ground with this character, and yeah, and the movie this performance makes or breaks the movie. I really do like a lot of the other performances. We'll talk about them. But yeah, I've got to say Ben Stiller, Walter Mitty, also getting my Mark Strong Award. Andrew, quick question. It's something that, honestly, I've never given much thought before. But I was thinking about it earlier. What do you think it's like to direct yourself in a movie? Because what I know about directors is that typically they are either behind the camera or they are in Video Village. They're watching the footage. They're watching the dailies. They're watching their actors and making sure they get what they're looking for from them. Right? That's what they're doing during the shot. And then, of course, they're calling cut. They're saying reset, take it again. But if you're in the scene, do you have someone you trust watching back? Is someone else essentially directing the scenes you're in? Or are you from within the scene directing the scene? What do you think that process is like?
Yes. I think if you're in the scene, you can obviously say action, you can still say cut, but I would say if you're the director and you're in the scene, I would say it's you're focusing more on the performance. I would say that's kind of what you're looking for. You're focused on the performance, and then I would presume, obviously, the cinematographer or the AD or somebody of that nature is kind of watching for the movement and the blocking of it to make sure that everybody's like staying in frame and doing what they're supposed to do. Because directors themselves they'll sit in front of a monitor sometimes, but they don't always are clued into exactly how the camera's moving, and it's not always something you can watch in the moment. Sometimes you have to watch it back. So it really just kind of dealer's choice, really, as far as how you want to approach that. I know there's directors that are a lot more hands-off. Directing is a very strange thing already. Like Kevin Smith told a story about working with Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis started talking to him about like lenses and like what lenses you'd use for what shots. And Kevin Smith had no idea. Like, he had no idea what he was talking about. And he just kind of was like, well, yeah, the cinematographer, the DP rather, the director of photography, he handles all of that. Like, I tell him what I want and he goes and does it. And Bruce Willis was just like, what are you talking about? He's just like, yeah, I don't know the lenses. He does that. And he's like, you got to know your lenses, man. This is ridiculous. Like, I was obviously they had a very like high profile, such as it was, this kind of known like
they butted heads
to an extent.
Yeah.
It was, but that was something he brought up where just like Bruce Willis was like astounded that this man didn't understand the technical aspects of a camera. And Kevin Smith was like, well, I don't need to know that. The DP knows that. And so different directors take different approaches. I would assume they'd probably run it back. They'd probably film the scenes, and then if possible, they would replay them, watch them back, and he would make sure that everything looked good. There's a lot of static shots in this movie. There is moments with camera movement, but they're typically in the like Iceland, Greenland scenes. A lot of the stuff that's in kind of his mundane life is very static. And I think some of that's probably a deliberate choice, because when he's not in the daydream or not kind of traveling, it tends to be the camera's not moving a lot. But then when he is in the fantasy sequences or he is traveling around doing his different things, that's when you start seeing more of the camera movement. And I feel like that's a deliberate choice. I feel like it has to be to contrast like unsatisfied Walter with the more satisfied Walter. But yeah, it's a tough thing. I still imagine it's got to be kind of weird. But like, he directed himself in the Ben Stiller show to an extent. He was a director on that. Obviously, he directed himself in Tropic Thunder. So I'm guessing at that point, it's kind of secondhand for him. Like Tropic Thunder, I think would actually be a much more difficult thing to direct yourself in than this would be.
Yeah.
Like Tropic Thunder, obviously being the much more effects heavy, higher budget explosions, all that jazz. But it feels like that would be much harder. So I would imagine, by contrast, Walter Mitty, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is easy, no big deal here."
Well, last thing I want to say about Ben Stiller is he's playing a very meek character. He's like got the tie and button shirt when he's at work, and but you can just tell the dude just fit as hell. Like, dude, I don't know if he's still like Tropic Thunder ripped these years later, but he is taking care of himself. Dude is looking good.
The boy is jacked. I was trying to think of like a riff on like Ben Stiller to imply that he's jacked, but I can't think of one. The dude's
been
clearly
jacked.
in shape.
He's Stiller jacked. Does that
There
work?
you go. That's actually very good. Quite good. Ben jacked, Stiller jacked. Tremendous.
Also, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We have the same birthday, November 30th.
Nice.
Okay. Kristen Wiig. She's also in this movie. She plays Cheryl. She is a co-worker of Walter's, and he clearly has a crush on her. She, at the beginning of this movie, hardly knows who he is, though. Even though he's having these fantasies of finally talking to her. He found her profile on eHarmony, and he's trying to work up the nerve to reach out to her there. He actually ends up calling a customer service because he's unable to wink at her. I don't know if that's the official thing you do on eHarmony, but that's what he's unable to do in the movie. Kristen Wiig, alum of the show. We talked about her before multiple times, I believe. I know we talked about her in Ghostbusters. And I don't know, probably somewhere else. Wonder Woman 1984. There you go. And yep. I'm sure we said on both episodes, she's wonderful. I wish she was in 10 more movies a year.
MacGruber.
Recently, did we cover MacGruber? Did we cover MacGruber?
Yes.
We did. Yeah, we did. Why did we do that? Did I just say we...
SNL month.
SNL month. Yeah.
Jesus,
MacGruber. Look.
Oh my God.
We've been at this a long time. But she's wonderful. I recently watched The Skeleton Twins for the first time. Her and Bill Hader. Little, what do you call that? Dramedy? Comedy drama?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good in that. She's great in everything I see her in. I love her. She's very good here. Not as outwardly comedic as some of her other roles, but certainly still handles her own and gets some laughs in. Gets to play a little bit in the fantasy sequences, which is a lot of fun. And I'll say this. It's going to sound like a slight criticism. I'm going to bring it back around. So just go on the walk with me. There's this aspect of the movie where Walter Mitty is like basically in love with this girl that he doesn't really know. This part of the movie, it gets dangerously close to the manic pixie dream girl trope, where you have like a broken man who needs a woman to help him out of his rut. Now, the saving grace is that in most of those movies, when it is the manic pixie dream girl thing, the woman is not really a character. She's just a quirky force of nature that he plays off of. Whereas here, I think Kristen Wiig gets to play a three-dimensional character. She has a son. She has a complicated relationship with her ex-husband. She works there. She loses her job. There's a lot going on with her. And she doesn't have that quirky aspect. She's kind of just a normal person for him to connect with. So it doesn't go down that road.
The initial jump to leave is also not driven by her necessarily. Like his initial going to Greenland.
Very true.
Like she's not the thing. There is he has the weird vision of her singing Space Odyssey that kind of triggers him to keep going. But
it's
also
not really her.
It's not really her. But also the first step is him making that decision for himself. Right. Based off of some of the conversations he's had with her and a variety of things. But it's not like he goes after Sean O'Connell because he's like, oh, this is going to impress her. He's going after Sean O'Connell because he thinks that's what he should do. And so I think that's kind of another big thing that kind of veers it away from that, is that and it's also never really presented as like she's gonna fix him. Like, and I guess that's kind of the thing that I do appreciate that the movie never tries to imply is that like the movie I think is very good at being like Walter did this himself, and it helped him grow as a person that now can like just talk to her like a normal person.
Yeah.
Whereas there are definitely movies like, you know, I remember Garden State was a whole big thing for a long time, but like that's kind of how that movie is it's like it's you know, it's what it is. But so Kristen Wiig does get some agency here, which I guess is the good way to put it. Obviously sits back during most of Walter's adventures across the world because she's not part of that. She has key aspects to play because she also works for the same magazine that he does. And I just want to take another section to just be like, go watch Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Yeah.
Just
We'll
you need to
forever
watch
shout
that,
out that
folks.
movie. Adam Scott plays Ted Hendricks.
Is that his
You know,
real beard?
It can't
Like
be.
it can't
It
be.
can't
It looks
be.
horrible.
It has
Like I've seen him with a beard, and he doesn't look like that. Like,
either it's a fake beard or they
they're
use
purposely making it look bad.
like the thing that you put on your head to like fill it, like when your hair's thinning and you rub it
like
in
the
to make it
filler?
look thicker. Yeah. It might be like he doesn't need it, so it looks extra thick when he has that on.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
it
I've
is.
seen him with a beard, and I don't know that it looks as thick as it does here. But yeah, like it's genuinely like every time I'm like, that's a fake beard, right? Like don't get me wrong, it makes him look infinitely more villainous, but like it's
There's
so
this
off-putting.
shot in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I think it's like when the thing first takes off and everybody in the town is seeing it in the sky, or maybe it's when it starts raining meatballs and food. But there's a bunch of reaction shots of everybody gasping, looking up in the air, and going, and one character with a beard looks up, and while he's gasping, he just reaches up and peels off his beard, and there's another beard underneath, just for no reason. But that's what I kept thinking of.
Those movies are so underrated, by the way.
They're
Both of them
wonderful.
are
They're
just
wonderful.
so funny.
They're
Is
Lord
that
and Miller, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember if they just produce or if they also direct, but yeah, they are wonderful.
They are really, really good. And yeah, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller did the first one. I don't know if they did the second one. They did not, but the second one is still really, really funny.
Man, everything
but,
they touch pretty much is gold.
Pretty good
They have
bet.
a great tracker record. Yeah. I love Adam Scott in this movie, and just like I was saying about Ben Stiller earlier, where he can kind of play the straight man or the over the top one, I say the same thing about Adam Scott. Obviously, he's very over the top here. He's such a jerk. He's very over the top in Step Brothers, but he's also great on Parks and Rec, where he's very sweet and
Very
straightforward
normal.
and kind of just a nerd. Very normal. He does both extremely well. I think I see him play the goofy side more often. But speaking of Severance, I haven't sat down and watched it yet, but I know it's a very straightforward role, and I hear he's great in it. So
there's
Adam
nothing
Scott,
straightforward about Severance.
his character, I assume, is a normal person, though.
Such as you can be in a world like
extraordinary
that.
snenario.
But yeah, the same way that Kyle MacLachlan is normal in Blue Velvet. Yes.
Okay. Well, Adam Scott's great here. He's such a douche, and I hate him.
Yeah, he's
But
like
that just means
literally
he's great
playing
at it.
heavily on that Step Brothers type energy of just being mean for the sake of being mean. Like a real Mean Boys type energy. Like just endlessly kind of bags on Walter. And like people would be like, oh, it's like there's not really meant to be dimension to a character like this. This character doesn't really have an arc to an extent outside like eventually he kind of gets put in his place at the end. And that's all his really purposes. This sounds backhanded, but like a lot of characters in this movie of his part just exist to help Walter through this journey. And that sounds backhanded, but that's how narratives unfold in a lot of cases, where like this movie is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and you're watching Walter Mitty's journey and growth as a person unfold. So everybody has a part to play, essentially. And so Adam Scott's character has that part, and he plays that part really well with a decidedly fake beard. I refuse to believe it's real.
Speaking of Step Brothers and speaking of Parks and Rec, Catherine Hahn is in this movie as Walter's sister, which cast listing here is telling me her name is Odessa. I don't
Yep.
remember that in the movie. Sure. Catherine Hahn is wonderful in everything she's in, and she's been wonderful for like 20 plus years, and she's in like a million things that you don't realize was her, so you go back and watch it. Very happy that with WandaVision, she sort of broke into like a new stratosphere of her career, and she's like getting her flowers because she's been crushing it for so long. So funny. Doesn't get a ton. It's a limited screen time, but makes the most of what she has and has a sweet relationship with her brother and mom. And it's Catherine Hahn. She's wonderful.
No further notes. Yeah, it's Catherine Hahn. She's the best. Like she's kind of like a little bit more like Walter is kind of the structured one. That's kind of what it presents as. He's the one that's like got the very accurate record keeping of all the finances, and as his mom is moving into this home and out of her family, into this apartment and out of her family home, like that's the thing that they're like grappling with, that like she has to leave behind her piano and stuff like that. And but she's the kind of more reckless one. And so Walter has to like step up and be like, okay, I guess I have to handle this again. And she plays it perfectly to a T. She has to go be Rizzo in a church production of Grease, which is important. You got to do it.
I do love, though, this movie is like understated in a lot of ways that I really appreciate, because it would have been easy for that to be a conflict between the two of them. Like, ever since Dad died, I had to step up and be responsible. You get to do whatever you want. That fight never happens. Like, it's never like, no. It's just, you are who you are, I am who I am, and that's it. And I really appreciate that.
I like that a lot about it too, yeah.
I mentioned eHarmony earlier. He has to call the help desk, he has to call customer service, and most people are probably going to recognize the voice on the phone. It sounds like a little rat, because it's Patton Oswalt playing Todd, who's helping him with his problem. It's a recurring character throughout the movie. He'll frequently call him back and try to help him with his eHarmony profile. And Andrew, would you say it is intentional on the movie's part to make you question whether this character actually exists?
I don't think so, if only because and I don't know, like, because early on the character calls out that he like zones out, and I don't feel like if he were not real he would do that. But like I love that line where like he's on the train platform and he misses it, and he's like, "Hey buddy, you there?" And he's like, "Sorry, I just zoned out for a minute." And he's like, "You do that a lot?" And he's just like, "A normal amount?" Like, and I'm like, "What is a normal amount?" But yeah, I don't know that I'd go as far as to suggest the movie is saying he's not real, but
that reminds me of another Ben Stiller moment. Ben Stiller good at responding to questions. And there's something about Mary. Matt Dillon asks him, "What, you think your shit doesn't stink?" And he goes, No, I mean, yes, it does. Like, how do you answer that?
Yeah, right. Like, it's like, yeah, I guess. Like, when I don't, yeah, like, but that's not what we're talking about. Like, there's an energy that Ben Stiller has when he talks, where I'm just like, is this just how I sound to everybody? Like, is this just, is that actually what my life really is? It's just compartmentalized Ben Stiller's personality in all of his movies, and now I pretend that's who I am. I best not to think about it. Whoa, hey, whoa, I don't know, Jack. Like, oh, whoa, no.
One time, my uncle, during I don't know, period in his life, when he had a lot of problems, he said, "My life's like a Ben Stiller movie."
Oh, Jesus.
Like, shit was going wrong all the time. Very funny and sad at the same time. Him making that comment. Well, anyway, I watched this movie. This was actually our family movie night. I was like, "Hey, this is the movie I got to watch with the podcast." I think
how'd Bruce do with this?
Bruce watched Bluey on a tablet, which is what we do when movies aren't going to interest him. But friend of the show, my wife really enjoyed the movie. My daughter really enjoyed the movie. I thought they'd be into it. But they were debating. They were like, "Does he actually exist, Patton Oswalt?" And I was trying to remember if the character exists, because he's always calling him, and he's like asking him. He's always telling Patton Oswalt, "Well, actually, I'm in Greenland, and I just swam with a shark, and I just did this." Like, he's like telling him, almost pumping himself up telling Patton Oswalt like, "Whoa, really? That's great." But anyway, he does exist. He ends up appearing on screen. He's not just a voice in this movie, and he's a very sweet character. Man, this movie, I question why Life magazine or Life company would want themselves perceived this way, but also like eHarmony looks great. Comes out of this movie like looking great by having a character like this go so hard for one random customer of theirs.
I think, and that was actually one of the criticisms the movie did get, was a lot of this very overt product placement. I think Life gets away with it to an extent because Life magazine hasn't really been regularly published in a very long time. Like, I don't think it's been regularly published since, like...
But they exist as a company, right? And, like, the narrative is they're being, like, taken over by people at a clearinghouse and don't care and are, you know, just all about... I don't know. Like, it didn't leave the company in good hands at the end of the movie is kind of my only thing.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. And like, I don't know. I think like at the same time, though, the movie's kind of presenting it more like just this is like dumb corporate overlords that are just like ruining something else. So like, it's not like Life magazine is choosing its fate necessarily. But
you know, there is a lot of product placement, but I'm fine with it. It all works narratively. Like I like that it's Life magazine and not a made up company that we know is just a stand-in for Life. Like I think that works. And the most blatant one is probably Papa John's, which they also incorporate into the narrative. And again, I'm fine with it being Papa John's and not a made up pizza company. Like I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
Like for me, like they have a Cinnabon at the airport, and I'm like, there's Cinnabons at airports. Like, you know, it's something for me where like, this isn't like putting a Visa credit card down on a counter and like zooming in on the Visa logo. Like that's not how I see it for the most part. For me, it largely works within the sense of like a regular person going through their life is going to run in to branded things. And I think the movie largely works to keep it in that orbit versus kind of going out of its way to be like,
there's brands. That's real life.
Exactly. Tremendous. People eat pizza. That's real life. No, I never got the vibe that Patton Oswalt wasn't real. And then obviously by the end of the movie, he's clearly very real. He's the one that is able to. It is interesting to me that he's the one that confirms Walter's identity, despite the fact that he's never met him in person.
I guess he saw his profile picture. I don't know.
Yeah, he's talked to him on the phone, I guess. But like, but still, yeah, pretty funny. But
want to shout out Shirley MacLaine, who plays Edna Mitty, Walter's mom, and just a legend of Hollywood. I mean, I was looking through her credits. She's in freaking Around the World in 80 Days. I mean, like, woman's been at it for quite a while.
A long time. Her first film is 1955. It is the Hitchcock black comedy, The Trouble with Harry. And so from 55 on, she has been acting and still shows up in things occasionally. I mean, she was in 2 episodes of She was in 2 episodes of Only Murders in the Building a couple years back. So, so she's still out there, still doing her thing. And like what can you say?
And then lastly, but not leastly, gotta shout out Sean Penn, who plays Sean O'Connell. And I really like this performance.
I'm annoyed at how much I like this performance because Sean Penn is kind of a friggin' idiot. And so, but like watching this movie, I'm just kind of like, man, he nails this. Like it is. I don't know what to make of Sean Penn, honestly. Like, I know like he was just not at the Academy Awards and got crap for it, but like as someone who didn't care about the Academy Awards, like I don't, it doesn't rub me the wrong way. I remember like Hurricane Katrina, like he took his boat out and like saved people, but people were like, "Oh, of course he took a private photographer to make sure people knew he was doing that." But like, okay, but he's still doing that. I don't know. There might be stories out there that would change my opinion of him. I just don't have a strong opinion of him, but he seems to
rub people the wrong way quite often or be polarizing. I feel like the take on Sean Penn is like he's kind of a jerkwad, but also one of the best actors in the world. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's what most people. But I feel like that's all to say that this is extremely well cast because he's kind of leaning into being a
Like weird and esoteric, like just kind of like aloof.
yes, and he's not subverting it, he's just leaning into it,
Right.
Which is just a fun place to sit, and he nails it. I mean, like, I love like he's looking at that fox and he's like, sometimes I don't even take the picture, I just stay in the moment. And it's
Snow
like,
leopard.
excuse
It's not
me,
a fox,
yes,
it's a snow leopard.
Sorry, sorry,
Good lord.
snow leopard. I like it. I like how he's silly, but also very deep and maybe kind of vain, but maybe has the talent to back it up. It's, again, just very good casting and essentially a one scene performance. It's a little more than that, but basically one big scene. And he nails it. Turns out Sean Penn is a very good actor.
Turns out he just won an award for it. So,
Yeah.
no, I we'll talk more about it in scenes, but I do truly love that scene that they have. But yeah, it's kind of annoying how, like, you're just kind of like, oh god, you are really good at this, aren't you? Like, you're such a weirdo, but like, and it probably goes way beyond weirdo, but just like, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, this is a perfect casting. He's this, like, I wouldn't say I guess he is. He's sort of the MacGuffin of the movie. Like, finding him is the goal. And like, but there's a purpose to it. It's always that thing where like people are like the Infinity Stones are MacGuffins. And I'm like, but they're not though, because they serve a narrative purpose.
Right.
Like, a MacGuffin is supposed to be something that drives the plot that ends up being nothing, essentially. That's the point. So if the thing that you're chasing becomes something, it's not a MacGuffin as far as I'm concerned. That's always weird to me when people are like, people will say the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones is a MacGuffin. And I'm like, no, that does a real thing. There's a purpose there. It's this difference between like an actual like narrative device that drives the plot versus something that ultimately is immaterial. Because to me, that's what makes a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is ultimately something that is immaterial. Like the microfilm in North by Northwest is a MacGuffin because ultimately it is immaterial to the larger point. It ends up not mattering. But
like that thing in Mission Impossible 3 that has to retrieve called the rabbit's foot, and we never learn what it does or why he needs it.
For 5 movies?
That's
definitely
yeah,
blamed.
I guess retroactively. Yeah, don't get me started.
Nonsense. Or like the Maltese Falcon, obviously one of the most famous MacGuffins of all time. Just because ultimately the Maltese Falcon is not the point, because that's the reason it's a MacGuffin. So like, he's not really a MacGuffin in that regard. And the photo, I guess the 125 or whichever exact number it was, like, that's not really the MacGuffin either, because again, it matters. There's a purpose to it. So I'm always kind of like, so that's the hill I'll die on, is that if the thing they're chasing ends up being important, it's not a MacGuffin.
What if the movie never showed us what 25 was? Would it be a MacGuffin? Like, I'm glad we get to finally see the cover. It's a very nice moment. But like, what if it was like, I never looked at it and I never saw it printed, and you never see it?
I don't know that I would still say it's a MacGuffin at that point, because it still drives the plot to a point. It's not like 25 ends up not mattering. Not seeing it doesn't mean it doesn't matter, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, sure. Fair.
So,
well, Andrew, you know what time it is? It's time that we jump into the scenes of this film. And
2 hours in, finally time to talk about scenes.
I guess 2 hours to go.
Yep.
We are going to start by talking about the best scene in the movie, or at least our personal favorite. So, Andrew, in your opinion, when is this movie firing on all cylinders, and what is the best scene in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
I think about this all the time, like what my favorite scene is, but I do think it has to be the scene with Sean Penn and Walter Mitty on the mountaintop, like as he's kind of watching for this snow leopard. the dialogue that they have. I think it all really, really hits. Because first off, Walter has pieced together all the clues finally, with the help from his mom of all people, of where Sean actually is after the volcanic eruption. Because he almost gets him in Greenland. It's filmed in Iceland, but in Greenland, where he gets him for the volcano eruption, but he doesn't quite get him. So he runs back, but then he goes out again, and he ends up in ungoverned Afghanistan, which is why the airfare is only $84. There's a so then he goes on this journey. He bribes warlords with clementine cake. It's ridiculous. But I also like that the movie doesn't try to like play with like, is this real? Like, it doesn't, like, because it would have been easy for the movie to be like, is this a daydream? And I'm like, I like that it doesn't do that, because
I think there's one moment where it does it. I mean, would you say the shark attack at first, you're wondering if that's actually a shark there?
I don't know that I'm necessarily playing it that way, because the people watching him, and I guess in his daydreams, the people around him react too, but they're just kind of like, oh no, that's a shark, fight it. Like,
well, they
like, what are you
quickly
doing?
confirm it's real. Like when he's saved,
Right.
he touches their face. He's like, that really happened. So like, but yeah,
I think
it's not a
that's
running
more-
thing where we're.
I think that's more of like Walter doesn't necessarily believe that it's actually happening yet because of what he does. And
Yeah.
so, but there's two lines of dialogue so first off, he travels all around and finally finds this dude, like runs into him on the side of a mountain, and he's trying to get a picture of a snow leopard.
Not a
And-
fox. Don't.
Not a fox, a
It's
snow
not a
leopard.
fox. Stupid
and
thing to say.
Sean O'Connell is like baffled, shocked that Walter has found him. He's like absolutely astounded that the man managed to actually find him. And he says a couple of things that I like. He's like at one point he's talking about snow leopards, and he's like, they call those snow leopard the ghost cat, never lets itself be seen. And Walter Mitty's just like, ghost cat. And Sean O'Connell says, beautiful things don't ask for attention. And I've always kind of liked that line. That, like true beauty doesn't insist upon itself. It doesn't need to boast. It just is. Then ultimately, the snow leopard appears, and he's looking through his camera, and he like stops. He's like, they're chatting, and he's like, hold on. And he's like, he sees it, and he has Walter come over and see it too. And then they just sit, and the snow leopard is there. It's in his shot. It's in his frame. And Walter's just like, when are you going to take it? And Sean just goes, sometimes I don't. If I like a moment, like for me personally, I don't like to have the distraction of the camera. I just want to stay in it. And Walter's like, stay in it. And he's like, yeah, right there, right here. And that's something else that I've really tried to internalize, in this age of consistently posting about yourself, posting pictures, posting what you're doing, posting stuff. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but just that, like, I try to tell myself that there are moments that I need to keep for just myself, and they should be just for myself. They don't need to be for everyone. And I really, really like that. It's part of the dialogue too that really hit me, as far as just taking these lessons and try to remember these things and pay them forward, and just try to build that into my, just your mindset that, like, just be there. Like, don't let it doesn't need to exist beyond that. And the end of the scene is probably my favorite bit, where he kind of talks to him, and Sean looks at him, and he's like, so you have no idea what the picture was? And Walter's just like, no, I have no idea. And he says, something kind of like, that's too bad. It was a beauty. And obviously, knowing what the picture is, that dialogue, it ends up being much heavier dialogue, because Sean knows what the picture is. He knows it's a picture of Walter. And he knows that. And so, like, it makes that whole thing hit so much harder for me when Sean says to the executives, he's like, he tells the executives flat out, I want you to use this picture because I consider it my quintessence. What did he say? He says, number 25 is my best ever, the quintessence of life, I think. I trust you'll get it where it needs to go. You always do. But the quintessence of life. And you realize that what he's saying is not just that it's the quintessence of life. He's calling Walter the quintessence of the magazine for the work that he does for it. And all of that is just, it adds a layer to that relationship that you build into this idea that, like, obviously Ben Stiller has never met Sean O'Connell. Sean O'Connell has is orbited his life for a long time, and he's always taken good care of his pictures. So that kind of ultimate act of gratitude of basically saying, if this is going to be the end, I want you to acknowledge the person who helped me the most. And all of that just works magnificently for me. So this scene, it's not just in the power of what that scene portrays, it's the ripple effects both back on the movie that's happened so far, and then ultimately the ripples that happen when the cover itself is revealed. And that's the quintessence of life.
Well said. I also love this scene. I'm gonna ditto to everything that you've said. I really like when he's like, yeah, 25 wasn't in there. And he tells him, you're sitting on it. Because he assumes that he has the wallet and it's in the wallet. And I mean, this scene could have gone so many different ways. Again, about the character of Sean, I like that they don't make him like an idiot. I'm glad they don't make him like Edward Norton in Glass Onion, where he's like super pretentious and thinks that he's deep and mysterious, but he's just dumb. He's kind of genuine. It's kind of just who he is, and he does have some wise words to share, and he is the real deal, authentic. I do like that. I like they don't make him dumb or a joke or a punchline or anything. But also not too over the top. It strikes a good balance. I love how much time we take with this scene. We really sit in it for a while with no score. Kind of just this big culmination of this journey, and we get to watch this scene play out. I like whenever he's explaining that 25 was in the wallet that he sent them. He's like, I said in the note, look inside. Like, I thought it would be cute to put it like where the pictures go inside the wallet. And Vince Stiller has to tell him, well, I threw the wallet away. And he just goes, well, that kind of hurts my feelings.
Well, that kind of hurts my feelings.
It's so good. Yeah, it's such a nice moment. It ends with them going and playing soccer with the kids down the mountain. It's so nice. I like that it leaves you with this weird feeling. It's probably similar to what Walter is. Like, I've accomplished so much, I made my goal, but still kind of empty. I'm still kind of longing. There's still something missing. I still don't have this. It's like this lingering feeling that's unresolved. And of course, it does get resolved whenever he finds out his mom got his wallet out of the trash can, and he's going to have that negative after all. And that leads into other scenes we'll talk about later. But just as far as their conversation on the mountain, Andrew, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful pick. And
I do love what it ends on, because they see those guys playing soccer, and he's just like, that looks like fun. I'm going to go jump in. Like, the cat's gone, and Sean is like, all right, on to the next thing. Like, he's like, I have no sense lingering on this. I've had my moment. I saw the snow leopard. It looked dead at me. We saw the snow leopard. Like, Walter gets to share that moment with him. And then he's like, I'm on to the next thing. And so Sean's like, we're going to be odd numbered if you don't. Like, literally, he's like, I'm not just going to go play soccer. I'm now going to tell you that you also need to come play soccer with me, or the numbers won't be even. Like, it's straight up like, we're going to go do this. This is happening. And Walter just goes, he asks him, he's like, what was the picture? And Sean O'Connell just says, like, let's just call it a ghost cat, Walter Mitty. Because that same idea that, like, Walter doesn't demand attention in what he does.
Yeah.
And the idea that like he doesn't seek anything. It's just that there's a deeper thing I could probably dive into within my psyche of feeling sometimes like you're invisible. And that like not necessarily like you're underappreciated, but just that like you feel very unseen at times. And so the notion of like there was, for all of everything else, there was one person who knew the entire time the value he provided that he didn't really know about. It hits for me. So
another thing I
Turkish
really
prisons.
love about this scene, again, shout out to our screenwriter, Steve Conrad. I mentioned earlier that I like that Walter and his sister don't have a forced conflict for the sake of just having that in the movie. I love that this scene isn't like Sean was like, actually, I had the negative here, but I knew that I had to get you out of that office and send you on a journey to find something out about yourself. Like, it wasn't a big thing orchestrated by Sean to make Walter Mitty go on this journey. I love that he doesn't do that. Again, Walter is the one that made the decision to finally do this, and it makes it so much more powerful, and he wasn't tricked by Sean or whatever else. I love that that's not how it played out, and kudos to the restraint for not doing that. The movie does a lot of narrative, a lot of stuff I love narratively that doesn't feel forced and is not overwritten. So for my favorite scene, it's going to be an instance like that. My favorite scene is trying to place it in the movie. I think it's after Sean does the big downhill longboard sequence.
Walter.
Then, Walter does the downhill longboard sequence, and then the volcano erupts, and he flees it, and ends up at the Papa John's. Which, pause, Andrew, have you ever seen a standalone Papa John's that you can eat inside of?
No, but overseas play by much different rules than the United States does.
They got beer at McDonald's. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't dawn on me at all, but friend of the show, my wife brought it up, and I was like, well, now that you mention it, I guess they are kind of like Domino's, like just carry out and delivery only, but I don't know. Didn't ruin the movie for me, but he eats there, and then afterwards he steps out and he makes a phone call to Cheryl, to Kristen Wiig. Helps if I have the cast in front of me. And another quick pause here, Andrew.
Research.
During this phone call, we never get a reverse shot. We never get a shot of Cheryl on the phone. We just hear her voice. And it's same thing. We don't. And it's the same thing every time he talks to Patton Oswalt on the phone, which again is why some people might wonder if he actually exists. And I'm going through it in my head. I didn't think about it until just now sitting down. Is the entire movie, is every scene from the perspective of Walter?
I don't mean to upstage you, but we do see Kristen Wiig on the other side of this phone call.
Damn. Throwing this whole theory out the window. Where is she at? I can't picture where she is.
She's in the office.
Are you scrubbing through the movie right now? Okay.
Just trying to make you look dumb.
Well, you succeeded.
Success.
It has nothing to do with why this is my favorite scene. So let me get back on track here. So he tells her on the phone. It feels out of nowhere at first to her and the audience. He says, he's talking about his dad, and he says, he died when I was 17 on Tuesday, which is, I love the specificity of that. Like, obviously, it had a big impact on him, and obviously it's his dad, but like, the details we remember, the things that stick, like, it was a Tuesday, is just, it's just quietly powerful, just having that detail on there. And I don't have all the exact dialogue here, but I love the way this plays out. Just back up a little bit. Earlier in the movie, whenever he meets Cheryl's son, Cheryl's son is skateboarding, and Walter Mitty is like, oh, I can show you a few things. And we see him like out of focus in the background while Cheryl's on the phone, that he can do kick flips and do other tricks I don't know the name of. Like, he knows what he's doing on a skateboard, which is very surprising because everything we know about this guy is that he's very meek and sheepish and doesn't seem like he would know how to ride a skateboard. Again, it's another moment where it's like, is this actually happening or is he daydreaming about being able to do a skateboard? And then there's this sequence with a longboard, which I'll be honest, whenever he's at the top of the big road that goes downhill, and he finds two rocks and he rips his tie and he ties them to his palms so that whenever he's making turns, he can put a hand on the ground and make the turn. I'm like, it's a little hard for me to believe that Walter Mitty can do this. But this conversation pulls it all together. He talks about losing his dad at 17. And he used to be a kid with a mohawk. He doesn't even give it much more detail than that. That's just the kind of kid he was. He was a kid with a mohawk. How'd your dad feel about that? He's the one that shaved my head. And then he died. I had to get a job to help the family. Got a job at Papa John's, and I've been working ever since. Like, that's all the information that's delayed. It's delayed. That's all the information that's relayed, and it tells us so much. Like, we understand Walter was a free spirit, was wild, was a kid enjoying life until the reality his dad died, and he felt like he had to take on this burden, take on this responsibility of his family, and that's why he's trapped in his own head the way that he is. But that's also why, like, he still knows how to ride a skateboard because he used to do that. The reason it's my favorite scene, what I love so much about it is, like, this is basically the only time his dad comes up. He doesn't look to the sky at the end of the movie and say, thanks, Dad. Not a thing that keeps coming up. Like, it's just all the information we need is in just a few lines of dialogue. It tells us so much, and just the restraint to relay it like this, I think is just so powerful. Obviously, I have no idea how Steve Conrad wrote this movie, but I can imagine a scene where this dialogue is in much more detail. And he talks about how much he used to love skating and how things he did with his dad. And then his dad got sick and eventually died. And then you slowly pare it down to all we need to know is, I had a mohawk, my dad died, I had to get a job. Like, those three things.
Efficiency and storytelling.
It's so efficient. And it tells us so much. And even though Ben Stiller doesn't break down in tears, I get emotional thinking about it. Like, it's just, I'm in awe of the ability to have this minimal dialogue with maximum impact. I think it's so powerful. And that scene unlocks the movie for me. It unlocks the character of Walter Mitty. It makes the daydreaming thing not just be a gimmick, but, like, I understand, it characterizes it.
Yeah. It
justifies it, if you will.
It adds just enough detail to give us context as to why he's like this. And yes, it's not necessarily like, he's not martyring himself. Like, he's not, like, trying to put it out there like, I was robbed of my life. That's not how he describes it. That's not how he treats it. It was a necessity. But just that there was this undercurrent. He kind of talks in that scene about how, like, I had this idea of who I wanted to be and what I was going to do. And, it rides a very fine line, because I don't think it gets to, like, a pity me type thing. It doesn't. He just he speaks about it very matter-of-factly. Like, I had this idea of what I was going to do, and then my dad died and it all changed. And it's a human response. It's a human reaction. You have to, he had to adapt, and so suddenly something became more important. And it's a very, very well executed scene. I like it a lot. This is a good pick. I don't know that it's necessarily something you choose at the offset, but I think this is a very good call.
Yeah, I mean, I hardly remember. I know he's on the phone. Obviously, I don't even remember seeing Cher on the phone, but it's not even the visuals, just that dialogue that really stuck with me. And I've said it on episodes before. I feel like every man Just trying to make their dad proud. And that's just what guides men's life. And even when it's a non-existent relationship or bad relationship, you're trying to prove them wrong. You're trying to. It's. We seem to be very much driven by a relationship with our dad, and that stuff always hits for me. Like, yeah, for the record, great relationship with my dad and all. But yeah, father son stuff is always really strikes a nerve with me. I think this is one of the better examples of it, and it's so minimalist. I keep going back to that, but like,
Yeah.
I really, really, really love that. Andrew, we've talked about it a bit already. There's this I keep saying gimmick. That sounds too negative, or I hope it doesn't have a negative connotation. But like this thing in the movie where he has a daydream, and we see the vivid daydream play out, often like an action movie. And I do appreciate, to your point earlier, the movie is really never trying to trick us. It's always pretty clear this thing is not actually happening. Even from the very first time it happens, which is where he's on the elevated. I almost said elevated subway. It's not a subway if it's elevated. The elevated.
Just a train.
And he jumps off the train bridge into an apartment window because the building's on fire, comes out the bottom floor with Cheryl's dog. I mean, it's obviously not happening. My biggest complaint the first time I watched this movie was like, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes in. I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. Like, he has vivid daydreams, and like, every time it happened, you know what I compare it to? I compare it to like watching a musical, which I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, and one reason is because whenever a song starts, I'm like, okay, the narrative's on hold. Like, we just have to explore this one idea for 3 to 4 minutes and then resume the movie. That's just kind of how, and that's a me thing. I'm not racking on musicals. But like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do during
Chris
that
Logan
song.
shoots hard on musicals.
I know, such a hot take. And that's kind of what these daydreams kind of start to feel like. It's like, okay, well, I know this isn't really happening. I get it. You wish you could stand up to your boss and you can't. Or, yeah, you wish you could impress her, but we have to sit here for 3 minutes to watch this thing play out. That was my biggest takeaway the first time I watched it. There's too much of it, and it kind of lost me every time that it did it. I appreciated the quirkiness, but revisiting the movie, the cutaways, the daydreams, it's really the first third of the movie. And #PP, I do think there's kind of a lot of them. I wonder if we could lose a few of them. It happens a lot. I think to a point where we get the idea. But I also finished the movie and I wonder if we need it to happen that much so we can see the evolution of Walter Mitty and the fact that he doesn't need to do them anymore. And he kind of takes control of them. Like when he has Cheryl sing the song and he's aware it's a daydream and he's using it to motivate himself. And we kind of get this catharsis. When we have a long scene play out of him going downhill on a longboard and it's real, it feels so much better because we know that he was stuck in fantasy land before. So I kind of go both ways about it now, kind of revisiting the movie. But that was probably the thing I bumped up against the most the very first time I watched this.
Yeah, I think, and some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. As far as the daydreams go, they're not all just like, obviously the one with Adam Scott where they're basically doing like a superhero chase, surfing on pavement and gravel and all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah, looks very good, by the way. Like special effects in this movie,
like,
look great.
I was genuinely surprised. Like, it looks really good. Apparently, this was all shot on analog film.
Wow.
Which is just tremendous. Especially for like the landscape shots when they're in Iceland or filming in Iceland. It's just
looks so gorgeous
just
movie.
gorgeous.
This has made my
Gorgeous.
list for where's the 4K. Like it's
Right.
Dick Tracy
Absolutely.
and Walter Mitty.
Like the scene where he's longboarding just down that long road. I'm just like, this
Yeah.
alone it justifies the 4K. But like, so, and yeah, I don't know that you need all of them necessarily, but I think it is trying to establish that like this is something that he does a lot to kind of, I guess, sort of cope or, add flavor to his life. Um, but it's not actually adding flavors, making stuff up. But and you get to that conversation at the end with Patton Oswalt where he's just kind of like, so how's the daydreaming going? And he's like, less. And he's realizing that, like, the daydreaming was kind of this mechanism that he used to kind of make up for the fact that he felt like he wasn't that interesting. So he just envisioned scenarios where he was interesting. I love the one at the beginning where he like dives into the apartment building, comes out the bottom with the dog, and he's like, I smelled gas and I thought about your dog. And he hands the dog over to Cheryl and he's just like, and I hope you don't mind, I went ahead and made a prosthesis using, and he does all this fancy language and then
Yeah.
hands it over. And she's just like, God, you're noteworthy. And he's just like, I try to live by the ABCs, adventurous, brave, creative, or something. And then it cuts to like Patton Oswalt being like, that's everything I want in a man. And it's like, it flows together so well. And so I do like those transitions as well. Like when he turns into like the mountain man and it just like happens like in the hallway of the magazine where it just like
Yes.
suddenly turns to ice. And I'm just like, this is so well done. Like the effects, like it's not just that scene with Adam Scott. Like almost all of them are just so kind of like seamlessly done. And
It feels very Edgar Wright, like in the pacing and in the way that remember the opening of Baby Driver where the opening credits are like in the graffiti and on the wall and stuff. This movie does something very similar.
Yeah, this movie does a lot of that. That's actually something I wanted to call out too, because like when he finally like does make the decision to leave and he goes out to fly out, and like I love that when he finally just like runs, he like runs past all these covers of Life magazine and it's all these kind of iconic things, and then it starts like intermixing these covers that start having him in them. And then as he's running through the airport, it's doing the Life magazine motto, which is to see the world, things dangerous to come to.
It is genuinely, I usually say this word sarcastically, it's genuinely subtle.
Yes.
Like it doesn't call attention to it. Like it's people watch this movie and missed it. I promise you.
Absolutely. Like the ones on the airplane where like it lights them up as it goes across. Like these are the types of things where I'm just like, this is such a good creative. Also, I love that when he flies to Greenland, there's two people on the plane and they're sitting next to each other. Just always love that gag. I'm like, it's a completely empty plane, but we're seated next to each other. And
at one point, he opens a text message, and the text message is like on the mountain in the background.
Just
so cool.
Looks so good.
Cool.
I love when he lands in Greenland and he walks up to the guy that's at the car rental place. He's like, do you have any cars available? And he's like, yeah. And he looks over. He's like, we have a red one and a blue one. And he just goes, I'll take the red one. There's so many small moments like that where like even the moment where he decides to leave and he's got this picture of Sean on the wall, and then it just like subtly starts like calling to him and like waving, like basically like in his mind, Sean is telling him, come find me. And it's just, and like I have the scene playing where he flies to Greenland right now, and like there's like this giant moving shot as it flies through, as it lands in, as you kind of get this pan of the seascape and stuff, and it builds into that idea that now the camera is moving. Now we're getting this more fluid momentum in his real life instead of just a fantasy. And I do love that him and the other guy on the plane like shake hands before they leave when they land at the airport. Just like, we had just spent 10 hours on a plane, so we apparently know each other slightly now. But there's just all these micro decisions like that I think are so, they add all these layers to it, and it's part of what I think makes the movie so effective for me, because like you could have easily just not done those things. Like,
yep.
And like you said, there's people that probably don't even notice they're there. But that makes it all the more powerful to me that like it's there and it's subtle and it's not calling it, beautiful things don't ask for attention. But it's, and then that whole sequence kind of leads into the bar sequence which is another great scene. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it since we just segued into it. But this is where he meets up. He gets a clue. He goes to this place that he thinks Sean is at in Greenland. Walks into this bar, runs into a helicopter pilot played by I'm certain I'm butchering his name, but it's Olafur Darri Olafsson. He's been in a couple of movies. You probably recognize him from some other stuff, but he's singing the Human League's cocktail bar song, Don't You Want Me? But and this is the test. This is a real important scene because Walter has taken almost a safe jump. He has flown to Greenland to try to find Sean, and he identifies this pilot's thumb from one of the pictures he has on the reel that Sean sent him. And he realizes that this guy saw Sean, and it's another clue. And the guy's like, well, I'm about to deliver mail out to a ship, and then Sean was on that ship, and they might be able to tell you more, but the dude's like pounding boots of beer, and Walter's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna come with you if you're drunk and piloting a helicopter. And so it's this moment where like you think maybe the bravery wore off. Like, all right, I took a step, and I'm not going to take any further steps because now it's not safe. And it's the scene with Cheryl singing Space Oddity to him, which is a callback to where Adam Scott's character like called him Major Tom because he keeps zoning out. And so that empowers him to jump onto that helicopter, which then propels him through the next stages of the story as he lands in the water, fights the shark, ends up on the ship, and then ends up in Iceland to try to continue hunting down Sean. And but that bar scene is very pivotal, I think. And I think the performance by Olafur is very good. And then Walter obviously making the decision to jump onto the plane. Kristen Wiig singing Space Odyssey. It's all just, again, it's the kind of stuff where I'm watching every single piece of it. And I'm just like, there's so much going on here that's adding so much layers to what's happening. And it's just tremendous.
Andrew, I have to correct you just because you dropped Snow Leopard on you.
Mm-hmm.
You dropped Snow Leopard on me earlier. It's Space Oddity.
That's what I said.
I'm going to check the tape.
What do you think I said?
Space Odyssey.
If it is, it's a slip of the tongue. I know it's called Space Oddity. All
right. And let's hear what Andrew said right now.
Kristen Wiig singing Space Odyssey. It's all...
I don't know who was right. Well, the listeners will know right now. One of us looks really stupid right now, though.
There is a very real chance I said Space Oddity so quickly it sounded like Space Odyssey. And it's also extremely possible that just in riffing on it, I just said Space Odyssey. Like all things are possible, Chris.
There's some great needle drops here. Obviously, the Space Oddity.
Dude, the
one
music
is great
in this movie alone. Like, we can, if this is a good chance to talk about it, but I love the soundtrack to this movie. I absolutely love it.
The one that really I felt like a welling in my chest was I can't even remember the exact scene it plays, but I think it's another scene where he's flying. It's the Arcade Fire song.
Wake Up.
Yeah. Which has been stuck in my head since I watched this movie, but it was perfect. Like it worked so well. Great soundtrack, great music.
Yeah, like it's a lot of music by Jose Gonzalez. He does songs like Far Away. It's also his band Junip does full band. So you get kind of two versions of songs in some cases where Jose Gonzalez will do it like solo, and then there'll be like a band version. The Don't Let It Pass, which is the song that plays while they're playing the soccer match. I've always really loved that song ever since I saw this movie. Stay Alive, Step Out is the song that plays when he like makes the decision to run to go to Greenland, and as he's running past all the posters, that's the song that plays there. Far Away, and then like I said, Wake Up by Arcade Fire. Dirty Paws by Of Monsters and Men was in the original trailer and then features in the movie as well. I think during the longboarding sequence down the path. But just all of the music, it's like I literally listened to the soundtrack on the way home because that's the kind of mindset that I was in. It's a very particular vibe. I can't just listen to this. I have to be in the right mindset to listen to this soundtrack. It's not a bunch of jams necessarily. Like you don't throw this on to feel good about yourself. You throw this on to sit and think about the decisions in your life that have left you to where you are now. But it's the soundtrack is just tremendous. I don't know that I've ever been able to find a vinyl of this. I'm certain there is one. I've just never bought it, but it's I love it. It's great.
The very first note I took on this movie, it shows Walter Mitty on his eHarmony profile. He finds Cheryl and he's reading through it. And I think her blurb says that she has a dog, 3-legged, and one son, 2-legged. And his response is just, I don't know if the microphone's going to pick that up, but he sharply exhales throughout his nose, and just the right response to the clever little line that she has there. Yep. And I just love how relatable and how real that is. Of course, this is when he tries to wink. It doesn't work. He's got to call customer service and it starts that thing. But I do want to go back real quick to the first dream sequence where he jumps into the apartment building and saves her 3-legged dog. I love the little detail that the dog is a Chihuahua in that dream sequence. But when we see the dog later, it's a different breed. Yeah, it's not the same. Because at that point, he doesn't know what it looks like. Yeah, he just knows it's a 3-legged dog. It's again, it could, if the dream sequence had the same dog that was the real we saw later, nothing's lost. No one cares. It doesn't hurt anything. But the fact that it's different, because the fact that they paid, the fact that details in the movie is just very cool. And I appreciated it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, and it's important because we're firmly establishing that, like, no, he doesn't know what the dog looks like. He knows it's a 3-legged dog. But I love those. Again, it's those small details. It's those little things that, like, just really make the movie. And it's the attention to detail, like the care that was put into this. Like, I would love to, like, just sit and talk with Ben Stiller about this movie for hours, but I feel like he just wouldn't want to. Like, all the decisions that he's made about it.
I don't know. He might. I've never heard him talk about it. Like, I know.
Like, obviously, it was talked about when it, like, came out. There was the press tours and the
right,
and everything. But, like, I don't feel like this is something that he's ever really, like, gone back to. And that's what kind of bums me out, just because this is one of those things that I think, like, you know, I don't see this as something, like, this is something that I could see, like, Kino Lorber doing a 4K of that's just very bare bones, very base. Like, I have a Blu-ray of this because there's no other way to own it. And I'm just like, I'm not going to not own this movie. But it's something where, like, I would just love to ask about all these details and all these decisions and just be like, you know, where did this come from? You know, what was the mindset here? Like, you know, talk about directors you'd like to have dinner with. Maybe I'll be the first one that's like, Ben Stiller. Let's sit with Ben Stiller. Talk with Ben Stiller about stuff. Who cares, David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, forget you.
Ben Stiller, and he only talk about Walter Mitty and heavyweights.
That's it.
And he's like, those are the two?
It's like, that's it. That's all I had. It's like, excuse me, Mr. Stiller, I don't mean to be rude, but are there other things to talk about? I would give a brief highlight to Mystery Men. Gotta take a moment for that. How funny is Hank Azaria really? Is he funnier than you are? But to which he'd probably say yes. Ben Stiller strikes me as the guy who has no qualms about himself. But
sure.
But no,
God, the line I think of all the time from it's Ben Stiller from Mystery Men is when he gets mad at William H. Macy and Hank Azaria, and he's trying to put him down, and he goes, "You should change your names to the Lazy Boy and the Recliner."
And they're like gone. They're like,
and he takes so long for a second name, and it's just the same as the first one. A Lazy Boy is a recliner. Lazy Boy in the recliner.
Oh my God. Turns out Ben Stiller's really funny.
Guess tonight, the lone wolf hunts alone. Oh, I gotta rewatch Mystery Men.
I'm writing a wolf pack of one, is what he said.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I gotta watch Mystery Men. I don't even know what I was saying about this movie. Yeah, Ben Stiller, he's great, really funny. Okay, so into this movie, after he goes on this journey and he gets 25.
Yep.
I love how we wrap things up. Again, I'm gonna go back to like the understated nature of the script. Because he goes back to Life magazine where he doesn't work anymore. He interrupts their meeting and he throws it down. He's like, there it is. There's 25. There's your quintessence of life. And he doesn't know what it is. And he makes it a point to put Adam Scott in his place, but not in an overly cartoonish way. He doesn't make fun of his beard. He doesn't get everyone laughing at him.
Which is what he envisions. Like, I love that. And I realize this is probably what you're building to, but like he envisions putting him down, but when he actually does it, it's much more understated.
Yes. And it's grounded and it's about what is important. And he's like, I get it. You're just doing your job. This is your role. But you don't have to be a dick about it. And it is really just to the point. And again, not cartoonish, not over the top, he's not suddenly a stand-up comedian, not suddenly super witty. He's just has the courage to stand up to this guy. And that's it. And I love that. I love the understated nature of that. Similarly,
go ahead.
He sees Cheryl after he picks up his severance package. And he follows her out the building and catches up with her. And he kind of just lays it out there. He's like, hey, sorry, I would have talked to you, but I saw you were back with your husband. And she's like, oh, that's not what that is. And then he's just honest with her, even though it's a little awkward and weird. Because he's like, to go on this trip, like, I envisioned you singing this song and it gave me the courage and I just been thinking about you and I would like to go on a date. And it's so simple. Again, he's not super smooth or suave or clever. He's just honest and tells her what's been on his mind and how he feels about her. And they go on a date. They're not engaged to get married at the end or whatever. They walk down the street and hold hands. It's real and it's understated and there's a nice moment in the magazine. But those two I wanted to shout out. I love that the epilogue of this movie. Again, I just want to shout the underrated nature of it. I love the tone that this movie strikes. It, even though it's the same movie that has the big wild fantasy action sequences, the real stuff and the characters strike a very, very nice tone.
And I do love that scene with Adam Scott because I like how he starts it too, because he's just like, do you know what our motto is? And he goes, life. I'm loving it. And he's like, no, that's McDonald's. But, the Life magazine motto is like to see the world, things dangerous to come to see behind walls, draw closer, to find each other and to feel. That is the purpose of life. And when he puts Ted, is Adam Scott's character's name, on the spot, and he's like, do you know the motto? And he's like, no, it's the reveal. It's no, he doesn't. And I like what he says there. And I have the actual dialogue pulled up. And he's like, this thing that you do, Ted, where you come into a place and push people out, you should know those people worked really hard to build this magazine. They believed in the motto. And I get it. You've got your marching orders and you have to do what you have to do, but you don't have to be such a dick. And then he does get his little dig in at the end where he's like, put that on a plaque and hang it at your next job, because that's an actual thing he says to Walter earlier in the film. And I like that a lot, because what he's basically saying is, you don't know what we've all done to make this what it is. And it's an acknowledgement too that he's like, and your job is not fun. You have to do what you have to do, but there's a way to do it that's not this. And I like that a lot. Yeah, that scene with Cheryl is good. I like when they actually walk to the magazine stand and they see that the cover is a picture of Walter. And they walk away and he's like, yeah, I guess. She's like, are you not going to get one? And he's like, no, I figured I didn't want to look uncool. I'll figure I'll go back and buy some more later. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not some now we get married. It's not some other deep fantasy. It's not some grand gesture. It's just, hey, let's go out sometime. And it's yeah, it's just really good. I'm gonna run through a few more quotes of dialogue that I really like, if you don't mind. What I do love the helicopter pilot where Walter is just like, so you're just gonna finish your beer and then fly a machine, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of nervous about the storm. Just or then the helicopter pilot's like, don't cheat on your lady, man, when you live in a country that only has 8 people in it. But or when Todd calls Walter at one point when he's on the hike and he's like, hey Todd, I'm gonna keep this short, I have to make oxygen choices. I say that a lot when I'm playing hockey. Like somebody will like skate up to me during a game, and I'm like, I have to make oxygen choices. I can't speak to you right now. I'm too tired. But it's
I love. Where's the volcano? Is that Greenland or Iceland?
That's Greenland.
I love
no,
when the guy. I don't know.
It's Iceland. It's Iceland. It's Iceland.
Okay. I love when the guy is trying to warn him it's about to happen, and he's like, eruption. And he, Walter Mitty is like, erection? Like, trying. It's
so
just the delivery on that is pitch perfect.
I do really love all those sequences there, and it does make me genuinely want to go out to like Iceland and just see it and just like exist out there for a little bit, just because it seems like it would be such a very calm place to exist. But I just think that this movie exists in, I don't want to say that it's some underrated masterpiece. I get that the romance with Kristen Wiig can feel a little clunky, I guess. I don't think it's, I think it feels more real in that way, because like it doesn't end with like some, and now we're getting married, like you said. It just starts with like, hey, let's go out. Let's just go out. There's stuff that I can understand not quite landing for people. So I'm not going to say that this is like underappreciated or viewed, but I think it is it's for me. I can acknowledge that this movie hit me at a very particular time in a very particular place. That means it's going to stay with me forever. Like, I will be 75, God willing, and I will remember the decisions I made in my life the years after watching this movie. I will remember the places the lessons I took from this and where they contributed to taking me where I ended up. And to me, that's something that is far beyond anything else. To have a piece of anything speak to you at that level, to hit you in a way that it actually makes you examine yourself and the things that you're doing and the feelings that you have, and realizing that it doesn't have to keep being the way it is just because that's the way it has been. That's not something I can put a percentage score on. And
I was gonna ask, I don't put words in your mouth, but would you say it's accurate to be like, this movie in your canon it's not right to say, oh, it's top 10 or top 5. It's sort of its own category of like movie that made me kind of way. Like, to
an extent. I mean, movies. I always struggle with ranking things anyway. Like when I put together my Letterboxd top 4, I was just kind of like, all right, here's 4 movies I like. But it's a tough thing to quantify to an extent, because it's foundational in a way that a lot of other movies aren't, in that this is a movie that actually made me like reflect on myself. Not just in the set. Like, I watch movies a lot that are just like, man, that makes me want to make a movie. Like, that's the kind of movie that I watch, and I'm like, that makes me wish that I could just do this once. Maybe not become a filmmaker, but just one time I want to do something like that. There's movies like when I saw Baby Driver for the first time, that was a movie where I was just like, man, this makes me want to make a movie. This makes me wish I could make a movie. And the joke I always made is that I would adapt my friend's comic called Buffalo Speedway, which was about the busiest pizza day in history, which I think was June 17th, 1994. It was OJ on the run, the World Cup, and the NBA Finals all at the same time. So it kept everybody at home ordering pizza. But he wrote this story that was originally going to be a film that he eventually turned into a comic because they were going to make a whole bunch of changes. But I've always joked with him that we should make that as a movie. But so there's movies like that where I watch it and I'm just like, man, this really makes me want to like churn out something creative. There's not a lot of movies that I watch that make me go, this is impacting how I exist as a person. This is a movie that the lessons that I'm taking from it are actually something that I want to like bring back into myself in a way and take these lessons and apply them to the feelings that I'm having in this moment and not just being content and realizing that life can be more than it is. And those are feelings we all still have sometimes, I'm sure, but this movie hit me in a particular place at a particular time that made it very foundational. And yeah, I'm not going to compare that to Mad Max Fury Road or Ghostbusters. I'm not going to do that because Mad Max Fury Road is a movie I just watched and I'm like, well, that friggin' ruled. Whereas I watch something like this and I'm just like, oh, I can be more than I am. And yeah, because like the thing I tell my mom when I see my mom, my sister is the one that went to college. Sorry, guys, you're getting a weird deep dive into my life and my psyche at this point, which I guess was expected. But when my sister went to college, she went to college in New Mexico, El Paso. She from Houston to El Paso is like a 15-hour drive. She went far away.
Wait,
I went to college.
New Mexico or El Paso?
Not El Paso. Santa Fe, New Mexico, through El Paso.
Okay, I was going to say, El Paso is still in Texas.
Still in Texas. You're right. My bad.
Okay.
It's been a while. But forgotten what's in the state of Texas. But Santa Fe, New Mexico. So 15-hour drive. Everything's brown. You learn that there are many shades of brown visiting Santa Fe.
Yeah, you're not talking about people, just to clarify.
Yes. The city itself. The actual buildings, to be very clear. And so but she kind of hated that she did that. She really didn't like that she was so far from everybody. And so when she came back, she's lived within a few miles of my parents ever since. She's never branched out. But she did it, realized it wasn't for her, and then came back. My brother has never lived away from my parents. He's always been nearby. And so, but I was always the one that was like, oh God, I'm going to college. I'm going to cry about this. I was a giant worrier. I was always the one that was like, oh, don't do that. That would be weird. Or like, I had this deep, so I remember asking my mom once, I was like, of all of us, did you think I was going to be the one that actually moved away? And she was like, never. Like, never. Like, I never would have expected that to be you that did that. And it's going to sound melodramatic to say this, what I'm about to say. But I don't know if it doesn't happen if I don't watch this movie. And that's, like I said, you can't compare that to anything.
There's just one movie left. There's one episode left of our podcast. Now we've come to the end of the road. That song was about, right? Podcast coming to an end. One more. Did we tell the people what the final episode is? Is this the big reveal? Is this when we say what's coming out next? What's coming out last?
I don't know. Do you want to? We can. It's definitely something where we certainly can. I think.
They've listened this long.
They've listened this long. for the last episode. I don't know. Was this my idea? Was this your idea? I don't remember. But
I don't know. We'll say it's our idea, Andrew. We'll show
it's our idea. We decided to take it full circle. And, I think we joked at the time we did it that there was an extended cut of this movie and that there might come a day where we cycled all the way back around and covered it. And so for our final episode, we will be doing the extended cut of Green Lantern. We will bring it full circle back to where it began, and we will watch the extended cut of Green Lantern that exists out there. The first time we are purposely watching a non-theatrical cut of a film. The first time that we will purposely dive into or revisit a film. We've never obviously gone back and watched a movie multiple times, obviously, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. Part of the reason we never really wanted to do extended cuts or different cuts of things was that reason, that we would largely be covering all the same discussions, and we didn't really think most director's cuts warranted separate discussions, which is still accurate. But we figured it's been years since we've talked about this movie. Obviously, it is the namesake of the Mark Strong Award. I can tell you right now who's gonna take it home.
I don't know. Extended cut. Maybe Tim Robbins has an extra scene and he steals the whole thing. Andrew, I don't know.
I just would find it very
it.
funny that Mark Strong wins multiple Mark Strongs for playing the same role in the same movie. I mean,
it's very possible
because
it's going to happen.
These matter so much. But so anyway, that will be the final episode. The door will be closed for a while.
I'm kind of shocked that you didn't get a joke answer in there, Andrew. I thought for sure you're going to wind up. The final episode is, and then drop something. But you went sincere with it, and I appreciate it. We have. I mean, if you want to get real technical here, we have gotten on these mics and talked about an alternate cut of a movie, Andrew. We did talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. We just never released it to the public. It's a long lost, buried episode that I probably never seen.
I don't even know if that data still exists.
I don't get rid of anything. It's on this hard drive somewhere, but I don't even remember if I edited it into an episode or if I just had the raw. It doesn't matter. That's not what's coming out. Yeah, Green Lantern extended cut. It's technically not a director's cut, but it is more footage. And I maybe I shouldn't make promises I don't keep, but well, hang on. I know listeners can't see this, so let me just reach over here. All right, so I've got anytime I go to Half Price Books, if I see a 3D Blu-ray, I gotta pick it up because I have a PS3 and I have a 3D television.
Tremendous.
I don't particularly like watching movies in 3D, but I feel like if I have the technology, I should have these. So I'm holding this up to camera.
Oh man!
Can you see the price on that?
$5.99.
$5.99. I bought Green Lantern 3D. Now this does have, let's see, theatrical and extended on 2D. Theatrical version only on 3D. So I definitely have got to watch it extended. That's what we're covering. But maybe I'll throw on the 3D Blu-ray. Maybe I'll watch the movie twice. Maybe I'll watch it in 3D. And just to get that experience, to say I've done that. But this is a pretty nice set. I mean, these discs look pretty good. Yeah, this is going to be so fun to go back and revisit because... oh, look. Opening up. There's a digital download for Batman Arkham City.
I remember that. I got
the Sinestro, the Yellow Lantern
the
suit.
The Sinestro Corps outfit for Batman. I remember getting that, and I did it in Arkham. I remember doing that.
That is great.
That is a snapshot for sure.
It's wild. It's funny, like Green Lantern. I never saw the movie until our podcast, but I have an affinity for this movie. Because of our podcast, because of what we do, because it's the first episode, and because I found plenty to like in it, and it's I don't know. It'll be great to go back and revisit it. And
Yeah, I'll save
dig into it
most
all
of what
over
I'm
again.
gonna say for next week, just because. Like,
Yeah,
I
I won't
have-
get into
yeah,
any specifics here. But I do know that our first episode of this podcast is under an hour long. I mean, we breezed through that thing in a way that we forgot how to do at some point, and haven't
Well, because
had
that was originally the whole point. We were like, nobody wants to listen to a 3-hour podcast, and then
Yeah.
suddenly we became the 2-hour podcast, the hour and a half podcast, or whatever.
Nah,
Our
you
only
know.
short, our only. We have episodes about movies we don't like that are longer than Green Lantern. Like we like,
That's
it's unfortunately true. But no, I am excited to go back to it. We obviously talked about it a lot last time. I'm excited to revisit it. And yeah, it'll be fun.
we're gonna work on this episode as has been the case for all of the farewell tour. We're gonna take our time, do it right. Make sure we set aside plenty of time to record this thing. We'll be covering a lot of ground, talking about the movie, and I'm sure we'll maybe get a little sentimental, talk about the podcast as a whole. Working on, of course, getting a special guest to drop by the studio. Really go out with a bang. So you have that to look forward to. One last ride. Green Lantern Extended Edition will be the final episode of this podcast. And until then, everybody, just remember that maybe not every movie is great.
But all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can check him out on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony. Thanks to Mitch for the music. You can follow him on Blue Sky and check our show notes for the SoundCloud link. Check out our store on TeePublic for some Best of the Rush merch. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. That's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you. What's up, bud? What are you doing in here?
I love you.
What?
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. Hey,
Aw.
what's the better movie? Frozen or The Wolf of Wall Street?
0.
Okay, good answer. All right, what are you doing in here? I gotta finish recording, bud.
You weren't talking.
He was talking. I was listening. Do you need anything in the room?
Well, now I just come say I love you.
All right, love you too.
Bye.
He's waving. He said bye. All right, Andrew said bye. Hey, close the door, bud. Thank you.
Adorable little child.